Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Next Left Turn. Guys, sorry we're a day late, but that race last night was late. It was Easter. I didn't even think about when I scheduled the episode that it was going to be on Easter Sunday. So my apologies for lying to you. It was not with malicious intent. But I hope this makes it up to you. I'm not alone tonight. I got a very special guest. If you've watched our 5-hole, you've seen him there. This is Aaron. He's a great hockey guy. He's out in New York. He's going to talk some NASCAR with me tonight. I'm so excited to have somebody else on the show. Aaron, how are you today? How was your Easter weekend?
It was pretty good. It was a very interesting race. I'm just glad that Chase Elliott finally actually wanted to, wake up and score in the top 10, because I feel like ever since he won his championship, he just doesn't care anymore. Yeah, just sleep.
Well, he's a fan favorite every year. Why would he care? He's still getting all the money from the endorsements, and people still love him, and he's Bill Elliott's son. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but I mean, I want to win more. I mean, the guy I have him back me, Greg Biffle, he had that one shot in 2006, and ever since then, that was it.
Hey, I hear you, man. I mean, I've been a Penske guy my entire life because my father was Penske, and we're from St. Louis, so it was Rusty, Mike, Kenny, Wallace, and Kenny Schrader. So those are the four guys I grew up watching, and I grew up in Indiana, actually. So then everybody around me was Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart, and I couldn't stand Gordon, and I love Stewart. So, I mean, that's kind of my background in racing, and then I went away from NASCAR for like 20 years. And they brought this new car out a couple years ago, and I was kind of like watching from a distance. I was watching short track races, and then last year I kind of started watching a little bit more, and I was like, man, these new cars are cool. They can take a beating. It's a little bit more like the stock cars I grew up on, and now I'm doing the next left turn. So, I mean, I'm learning as I go through every episode.
This is a dope pod. I was trying to get one of my buddies to get do something like this because he knows way more than me. Like he watched like the Chili Bowl. He watched all those like dirt races, stuff like that. So I'm like, dude, you need to get on this, but he never has time. But I became Greg Biffle fan actually the year that Kurt Busch won. I just picked it. I was like, oh, let me just go Greg Biffle. And my stepdad was like, all right, there you go. You got him for life. And then I was like, okay. And then I just went out that. And then Jack Roush just wasn't doing anything for the team around that time. So then I saw Chase Elliott came up, and I hated Hendrick because of Jimmy Johnson, because, all those cup races that he was winning, the championships. So I was like, all right, let me just bite my tongue here, go at Hendrick, ride with Chase Elliott, and here I am.
Oh man, I just rotate whoever Penske brings in. I'm obviously, when Tony got his race team, I started following Stuart Haas a little bit, or at least rooting for those guys. So like I picked Barry this year because he was new. I like Chase Briscoe.
Well, so Barry actually raced in Chase Elliott's car those few races last year.
That's why
I didn't realize he was part of Dale Earnhardt's crew.
Yeah,
I didn't realize he was in the Xfinity with Dale Earnhardt. I watched his interview, Dale's Jr. Download. I was like, oh damn! I didn't know Barry was over there. I thought he was just a fill-in guy.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. And then I did a little bit of research on him in the offseason. I was like, he's signed with Stuart Haas. I'm going to root for him. So those are kind of where my allegiances lie. I don't typically talk about that a whole lot, but since you're here and I have a guest, I can share. It's pertinent to the conversation. But yeah, I can never root for Hendricks. But speaking of Hendricks, Richmond, 75 years at Richmond. This was like the 123rd race at Richmond. It's on the D format of the track, 3/4 of a mile. But before we get into Richmond, let's talk about the season thus far. Do we have a problem in NASCAR with Hendricks and Gibbs Racing just dominating everything? And I mean everything so far. Ford has not had a win. They're the only two teams who have gotten W's, and they are just destroying the entire circuit right now.
I mean, actually not the name of the game, but I mean, pretty much winning is the name of the game. So I believe everyone has the same advantages with the engines and stuff. You just kind of modify it your own way, but everyone gets the same engine plot. But I looked it up right here. So Hendrick has 40 wins in Virginia, while Joe Gibbs has 32. And 18 most wins at Richmond is for Joe Gibbs, and 28 is for Hendrick at Martinsville. So just dominating in the state of Virginia here. But
we're staying in Virginia next week.
Yeah, for real. And it's what Ricky Bobby says: if you ain't first, you're last. So
I don't know what to do with my hands.
Yeah, I don't do it with my hands. But yeah, I mean, you got to win. I mean, I'm kind of surprised Stuart Haas isn't kind of better, just because Tony Stewart really loves racing on all platforms. So I'm kind of a little surprised that they're not making a big push. But Brad Keselowski and Jack Roush, did anybody expect anything to happen there? No, because Jack Roush doesn't want to see into the future, which was the problem. Like I just said with Greg Biffle, and Carl Edwards is there, Jay McMurray. So that's a problem over there, Jack Roush. I mean, Denny Hamlin, his team, it really isn't that bad with Bubba Wallace and all that, but they're just not getting any wins, even though Bubba Wallace had a pretty decent race until
Bubba Wallace had a good season so far. Really?
Yeah. I was actually going to ask you about that. It's kind of interesting that he's actually taking that leap in the NASCAR world. He always averages this like 20th to 25th. The last I think the first 3 seasons. I think he came up.
Yeah, and he had 2 top 5s in the first 3 races, or 3 top 5s. He had that one race where he wasn't going to win. He knew he was out of it, and he played teammate. He pushed his guys up into the field, and he blocked for them in the most legal way he could block. And I've been very critical of Bubba Wallace, just because I felt like he was a crybaby. Like he just wasn't. I felt like he was not looking at it as business. He took everything very, very personal, which we know there's some history there. Some things happened. We're not going to get into that, but in my opinion, he has grown. He is becoming an advocate of the sport now, and not a deterrent. And I'm very proud of the steps he is making to grow in racing. And he's becoming quite the competitor. He really is. And he's a heck of a good driver. He really is.
Yeah. And Team Penske really isn't that bad either. They're just not getting any of the wins. I'm kind of glad Joey Logano's not really getting anything. I feel like he's just a douche.
He kind of is. I mean, he's good. I mean, he was good for so long.
Yeah.
Kind of like Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart. I mean, when you're that good and you're that consistent for that long, is it really being a dick, or is it going, hey, I've been here, I've done this, I know what's going on. Like, it is what it is. I feel like that with anybody who's been dominant. And I hated Tom Brady when he played, but I felt the same about Brady when he was playing football. So that's just how I am with vets who have been dominant for the majority of their careers. But enough about us. We kind of got an intro here, so let's get going. It was Richmond. It was 400 laps. It was fantastic. We started with some drama because the track was wet. They had to bring out the wet tires. What did you think about that? What were your concerns going into the start of the race?
I thought the only concern was that they got rid of the wet tire. I felt they were fine, and they did that preliminary caution where it was still green.
30?
Yeah, with the green flag still, and I was like, oh, all right, like they switched it up, but it really wasn't that bad of a race. I thought it was going to be delayed like an extra hour just to get everything done, like everything dry. But then when Denny Hamlin they were interviewing him, and all of a sudden, like, oh, you got to leave in like 5 minutes. And it was like 7, well, at my time on the East Coast, it was like 7:10. I was like, oh, you got to go. And he's like, oh, shoot. I was like, oh, okay. I thought the track was good. And then it obviously wasn't. But I didn't really mind the tires that they had out there. They should have just kept it for most of the race instead of lap 30.
Yeah. I mean, I thought they should have ran them a little bit longer, but I guess the track was dry, and they really were worried about getting pit road dried up. I mean, the rain tires worked, and that was my bigger surprise, because I knew the drivers weren't going to go hard into turn 1 on the first lap, not knowing what to expect out of the tires on this track. So I wasn't really worried about that. I was more worried about lap 2 or lap 3 when guys were like, okay, we have grip, and then somebody goes hard, and then all of a sudden half the field's taken out because one car gets loose in turn 1 or turn 2, and everybody piles up behind them. That was my bigger concern. It didn't happen. It ended up being some really good racing. The lap times were fast. There wasn't a big difference there between the slicks and the rain tires right off the bat. So kudos to Goodyear for bringing a good wet tire out there. I know they had a little bit of experience with North Wilkesboro last year for the All-Star race in the heat. I didn't get to watch that whole race because, again, I was still kind of migrating back into NASCAR. But I know Suarez won that, and that first heat, and the wet tires were good. So, all right, so we kind of got you all to lap 30. Nothing really happened. They just were running on the wet tires. Some cars were burning the right sides up a little bit more than others. Logano's pit crew said his tires weren't burned up that bad. I think Larson's had just a little bit on the outside tread that were burned up when they showed pictures of his. So tires were good. We're going to get to probably see some a little bit more wet racing later in the year, or at least I hope so, because I think it's going to be fun. Larson and Wallace, after the non-competitive caution, or competition caution, I guess is what they call it, they fight for space going into turn 3. Wallace pinches him several laps. These two guys are going back and forth. Larson finally gets a move and clears Wallace at one point down the road. It's just a lot of good green flag short track racing. I mean, did you have any qualms, or did you like the quality of the racing we were seeing early in the race? That since they were being a little bit more hesitant and it wasn't so go out there and get it done right off the bat.
The only thing I didn't really understand was the Kyle Busch caution, just because he kind of hit into the wall, but nothing happened. Like, no, I was looking for pieces of flying off on his car, and there was nothing. So I was like, all right, that was quite interesting. And I was also interested in the lap leaders when everyone would pit when it was still green, be a lap down, and the lap leaders were still going. So I think at one point, Kyle Larson didn't, Truex, kind of all of them. Bubba, they weren't pitting when everyone else was. I guess they wanted a few extra laps to lead, and then they pissed. I thought that was quite interesting instead of just pitting with everyone else. But
I think
I
that
guess
was
it
a
kind of makes
strategy
sense.
thing.
Yeah.
They said there was two strategies to this, and we're jumping right into stage two because stage one was short, and then after the competition caution, that was 20 laps. That was gone. So no big deal. We didn't miss anything. If you didn't watch the end of stage one, Kyle Larson got the win for stage one.
Yep.
We went to stage two. Stage two was 160 laps. Fuel window in this race was anywhere between 125 and 135. They had 9 sets of slick tires for this race. So the strategy at this point, because of how the first stage went, was you can break the next 2 stages into 2 pit stops or 3 pit stops. And how is that going to work for you? And how's it going to benefit your team? Like Aaron mentioned, Larson and a few of the other drivers decided to break that off into 2 pit stops and basically split the stage in half. Both strategies, I think, worked out, at least through stage 2. By the end of stage 2, you had like 20 cars that were a lap down, but that's short track racing. That's normal. I mean, that's expected. If you don't have lap cars in short track racing, something's wrong. Either there's been a ton of cautions or I don't know. I don't know how you wouldn't get lap cars in a short track race. Any track under a mile. But so green flag goes on stage 2. Larson clears Wallace, and Wallace again had a great race. He was up there up front for the majority of the race. He fell back a couple times. I think that was mostly because he burnt up his right side tires, but he found his way. He kept being consistent. He kept pushing forward. It was some really good racing. Lap 151, Larson finally gives up the lead and comes in for his pit stop. And it was the opposite of the strategy the most in the field. Martin Truex Jr. at this point got the lead because he pitted first, I believe. He was one of the first cars to come down pit road for those green flag pit stops. I mean, am I recalling that correctly? Or am I got it backwards?
I'm kind of thinking, I think you're right on that. I had to think about it myself.
I was like, because they came down in like 4 different groups for pit stops. It's not like you had one whole group come down first and then the whole second group came down. It was like you had 5 cars come down first, and then you had like 10 cars come, and then it was like another 7, and then it was a few laps, and then the last set of cars came through. There weren't as many penalties as I was expecting. There were 13 penalties in the spring race here last year for pit road violations. I think I only saw 2 or 3.
I only saw the one. That was Christopher Bell coming out of the pit too fast.
Okay, so Ty Gibbs and Ryan Preece both got pit penalties in the first set of green flag pits. I knew Bell got one.
Oh yeah, that's right. Ty Gibbs did, because he did the same thing. He came too fast out of the pit lane. Yep.
Yeah, because when you come off that turn, man, if you're rolling, you don't have a lot of turn to hit that pit road and get all 4 tires in that line. And so I'm assuming they cut it and they caught that corner with the right fronts.
I liked Larson when he did that to, I believe it was Kyle Busch, because of course, he's the pole runner, so he was trying to get back in that first. And he kind of dinged him up a little, trying to get in. I was like, yeah,
dude, that was they had that little. No, it was him and Truex late in the race. We'll get to that coming off pit road.
Oh yeah,
right at the end. We'll get to that. So coming to into stage 2, I mean, we had green flag racing the whole time. I mean, the caution that we had in stage 2 was the Kyle Busch caution you were talking about. And I got a problem with this. Nothing was wrong. Like you mentioned, there wasn't any debris on the track. It was Kyle Busch had something go wrong where, I mean, he literally just drove straight up into the wall. It almost looked like he had a right front flat, or like the sway bar or tie rod. Again, guys, still learning the cars. Deal with me here. I think it was one of those pieces they mentioned. It looked like it might have broke because the car really just went right up into the wall. He didn't sustain a lot of damage. It was really just a brush up, but NASCAR goes and throws the yellow flag. Like, are they protecting him? Because I think if it would have been Priest or Graza or one of these guys, the lower level
Suarez.
guys, or Suarez or somebody like that, I don't think they would have thrown the flag because he had complete control of the car. He wasn't in the middle of everything. I don't know. I felt like they were protecting him a little bit.
Well, he does have 6 wins at Richmond, which kind of leads all active drivers.
Right. I mean,
So,
he's a phenomenal driver too. And if you want me to be honest, I think he might be the biggest dick on the circuit, or at least he was when he was younger. I don't know if he is now.
not so much. I think the last like 3-4 years, he's kind of like laid it low. I hate the guy. Love his energy drinks. They're not bad.
And he earned the name Rowdy for a reason.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he was something else in his younger years. But Truex gets stage 2 win at Richmond, and Josh Berry finished second in that stage. Joey Logano third, Kyle Larson fourth, Denny Hamlin fifth, Christopher Bell sixth, Buescher seventh, Bubba Wallace eighth, William Byron ninth, and Tyler Reddick 10th. These names, we've been hearing these same names. It seems like week in and week out at the end of stages. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, Joe Gibbs Racing and Hendrick Racing have been dominant. And I mean dominant this season. Those two teams are locked in. I don't know what extra. I know Toyota had some extra testing because they had the new car come out this year.
Yep.
And Ford did too. Ford did too with the new Mustang. And it looks like Toyota took better notes, did better research, and made better adjustments because they are just kicking the living crap out of the new Ford Mustangs this year. Fords are qualifying well. They're not racing well, except for on long runs.
It's
always
been like that though for years. It's either a Toyota or a Chevy has always been dominant over a Ford. That was kind of the one thing that would make me mad with like Greg Biffle and stuff was that he would dominate in races and then like his engine would blow or like a piston would go. It's like, stupid stuff like that. I'm like, damn, like what? Like, come on, what's going on? And it's just because it's a Ford car.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about the Fords, and I'm a Ford guy. Like in NASCAR, I've been with Penske. I'm a Ford guy. Even back when they were Pontiac, I was Pontiac.
Yep.
And my Penske loyalty rolls over to IRL, just so you know. So like Castro Neves, Gilda Ferrin, those guys, like those are my dudes growing up. But yeah, Ford just seems to be missing the super speedways. They still look good. Like let's be honest, Ford looked good in the first 2 races on the super speedways. They held up just fine, but they had tons of bad luck, bad accidents, tires go down, things of that nature. So we'll see what Ford does later in the season. But next week we got another short track, so I don't anticipate Ford doing anything well. So if you're a bettor, bet on Hendricks and bet on Joe Gibbs drivers. The odds are you're gonna make out well.
Yeah, Jeff Gordon really runs a tight ship at Hendrick, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean he's a beast, man. I mean, he's Jeff Gordon, and I can't stand him, but you can't deny his
I bet you would have been one of those people that was throwing bottles and toilet paper at him when he passed Dale Earnhardt.
No, not quite. Not quite. I got respect. I mean, if you're good, you're good. And when you're that dominant, you deserve respect. You can be, again, this goes back to Brady for me. I was in Indiana for 30 years. I had the Colts and Peyton Manning, and I had to deal with Brady and the Patriots every single year. I despised Brady, but man, I respect the heck out of how he ran the team and how effective he was and how he never got rattled, and he was amazing. And that was Jeff Gordon racing for a long, long time until Jimmy Johnson showed up, who was basically the next Jeff Gordon. That's the way I always looked at it. Same team.
Pretty much.
And he basically just passed the torch on, and Jimmy Johnson just ran with it. But no, I mean that's kind of where I'm at on that one. So we're going to stage 3. And again, it's a lot of green flag racing.
Dominant of Truex though, and he's always dominant on tracks like this. But I really thought he was going to win it because he was, even though he was pitting late, he was doing what he needed to do. Like, what talked about strategy, he was still. I think he had 200, I think 215 or 220 laps led in this, and I was like, yep, he's got it. And then
I thought for sure he was going to get this one
because I think he has 5. Yeah, I think he has 5 Richmond wins.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's right. And I think Hamlin's got 6 now.
He should be tied with Truex, I think, because I think he had 4 at that time.
I thought they were tied, and I thought this was 6. That's something we'll have to check on and come back to you later. We have a difference of opinion. I love it. So here we start. We start stage 3. It's Truex and Larson are running side by side in turn 1. Truex takes off and goes, and just goes. and keeps going. And it almost looks like Truex is never going to look back. A lot of good racing here, a lot of back and forth. You're dealing with a lot of lap traffic at this point, and this is where it really comes down to handling and how well can you save your tires, because fuel, again, fuel window here was 125 to 135 laps. They knew they were going to have to stop one more time for fuel, but this was not an issue. You weren't trying to save fuel here. It was just working your way around the lap traffic and keeping your car clean, keeping the nose from getting damaged, and just running good, clean racing. And Truex was just absolutely phenomenal in that for this race. Nobody was really going to touch him. I mean, Larson stayed up there a lot of the race, and they were back and forth quite a bit. But I mean, Truex was just running away with it. Most of your racing came for third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and then you saw some battling back in the teens. But let's be honest, the race really didn't get super interesting until there were about 20 laps left. And at about 20 laps left, Truex leads Logano by about 2 seconds. At this point, Logano shrunk that lead, and he knew he had a good car for those long runs, and that's all he wanted. That's all he was looking for the whole race. With 10 laps left, Logano's closing on Truex Jr. He's got the lead down to Logano has the gap down to 0.06 seconds. In a 10-lap time period, he cut it down to 0.06 was the closest he got from 2 seconds. And he drove really, really hard in turn one turn, and he dripped all the way back to 0.4 of a second behind with 5 laps left. Now's when the action starts. And I thought the race was over at this point. Like, I was just like, meh. I was dozing off. And Kyle Larson gets loose. And Bubba Wallace spins him out a little bit. I wouldn't even say Bubba really spun him. I would say Bubba just kind of gave him that little extra. Yeah, it was a love tap. And because Larson was loose, he lost control of the car. But good Lord, did he save it. He saved that car, didn't touch nothing, drove it down to the grass. And like the consummate professional he is, he just got back on pit lane, and it worked out for him. Wallace ends up dropping like 9 or 10 spots on the pit stop. Larson ends up coming out in third when everybody pits, because everybody at this point had to pit. Because if you weren't going to pit and take the tires, you were going to get beat.
I've seen that too many times, yeah.
Especially on the short tracks, because the fall off from fresh tires to the tires with 60 laps on them at this track is like almost 6 or 7 seconds total. Between you and the car in front of you or behind you. So all the leaders come in. We all know this is a pit road race to set up. This all comes down to pit crews. And like I said, Larson picks up a ton of spots. He just picks up a ton of spots. Hamlin gets out there, but beats him off the pit lane road. And I was shocked because Larson's pit crew has been solid all year. Great pit stops. They put him in good positions to win. But Hamlin's crew gets it done. Hamlin comes out. Then it's Larson and then Logano and Truex Jr.'s in that mix there. Or no, was it Truex? Did Hamlin beat Truex off and Larson was in fourth? Sorry. Called that out of order. My apologies.
Was it? I thought Truex was fourth to start off.
No, because it was because this is what this is why the final lap gets interesting, because it's Hamlin and Truex, and it's Logano and Larson.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of the OT. OT
so,
then. Okay. Yep.
They take off, and we're going into OT. So yeah, we're into OT now because it was 2 laps left with the accident. So we're in OT now. It's 2 laps to go, and
Hamlin jumped.
This is what I was going to ask you. Did you think Hamlin jumped?
Hell yeah, he did.
I don't know if he jumped.
He jumped a little bit. You kind of see his car go like that. I was like, oh, and they didn't call it.
I think he gave more of a lunge, because I think if he would have jumped, we would have seen him just take off like a rocket right off the bat. But he definitely let it just roll out there a little bit further to get that line just a little bit, and then he took off on him. And he drove Truex hard into turn 1. And this is where it gets really entertaining at this point. So they're bumping and grinding. Truex gets basically pushed almost into the wall. They come down the backstretch. Truex is making ground back up on the outside of Hamlin. Logano cuts to the inside. Logano passes Truex. Larson comes in, and this is where things start to get a little interesting. Truex is mad. Truex is mad because this is his race. He'd done all the work. He'd been out front the entire time, basically, and Hamlin burned him up. They're teammates. It's like Hamlin forgot they were teammates. And I guess if you're going for the win, teammates don't matter. You're there to win the race.
He was
But to
thinking
burn
of
your guy,
Team 23. He wasn't thinking of he was thinking of his other team.
he forgot where his alliances lied, in my opinion. But he burned up his teammate, and I'd be upset if I was Truex Jr. on that one. To be honest with you, I don't know if I would have reacted the same way and gone and taken it on Kyle Larson, because as they're going down the backstretch on the final lap, Truex Jr. comes down and just slams Larson. And not slams him to wreck him, but slams him to push him out the way. Larson gives a response push. Then they tag up again, and Truex gets loose and spins in turn 3 or in turn 1. And this is after they've crossed the finish line. They're still going at it. Truex has a flat left front tire at that point, and as they're going around the track, Truex Jr. comes and hits Hamlin in the rear bumper 3 times. So it was a really weird finish. I thought we were gonna get more fireworks. I think at this point I messaged you and I was like, I can't wait to see what happens on pit lane.
Yeah, I was expecting like a I keep referencing, but the one race was Kevin Harvick and Biffle, and Harvick went through and like choked Biffle, or expecting like a Kyle Busch back in the day, just squaring people in their helmets still, like, and I was thinking something like that, but like nothing happened. I'm like, what? Is NASCAR gone soft now?
It was very anticlimactic. Well, I mean, if you go look at it, there was a guy who took his bumper and tried to throw it at a car from the Xfinity.
That was awesome in the Xfinity series. Yes, that was awesome.
Maybe that's why we didn't see anything happen, but I for sure thought we were, if nothing else, we were going to see kind of what we saw last week between Busch and Bell at the end of the race, where Busch went up and confronted Bell about the little spin he got. I thought we were going to see something of that nature, and we got nothing. And I got to give some credit to Kyle Larson. When they went and interviewed him, Truex had a good interview too. At the end, he said that's racing. It just is what it is. He's had lost a lot of races that way. They go to talk to Larson about it, and Larson's like, I have no ill will towards Truex. He's probably the most respected driver in the garage. Wishes no bad feelings. Hopes that Truex has no bad feelings. And he even said once Truex goes back and watches the film, I'm sure he'll see it the way I saw it. And it was just Larson ended up being the victim of Truex Jr.'s frustration with his own teammate. So I'll be curious to hear if anything comes out about the conversation that Truex Jr. and Hamlin had after the race. That's kind of what I'm waiting to see, because I haven't seen anything yet.
I recorded NASCAR Race Hub just to kind of see if anything is going to happen. So I'm going to watch it right after this to see. Hopefully something happened, but it probably didn't.
I didn't have enough time to watch it before the show tonight. Just too much going on. But
I feel you.
No, it was a good race. Penske, Logano finally got up there and had a decent finish. But the rest of the Penske cars were horrible. Blaney just had a bad day. Cindric was Cindric. I don't think Cindric's with Penske come next year, to be honest, unless he finds a way to win a couple races. I think Penske turns a different way. I don't know who they go get. I don't know who out there who's available, who's good. Maybe go get Sheldon Creed out of the Xfinity series and give him a chance. He was already driving the number 2 before he switched to Toyota over there. But I mean, I don't like Denny Hamlin. I just don't.
I wouldn't. Nah.
I mean, it's okay. It's not that I don't like him. He's not exciting to me. It's probably because he drives Toyota. I just don't like Toyotas. I don't like Toyotas.
How do you feel about drivers that are owners but with different teams?
I don't like that either.
Like, I feel like it's very weird. Like, I was watching, because I wanted to see what the Netflix NASCAR series was, and it just seemed weird. Like with Denny Hamlin trying to compete for a playoff spot for, Team 23 and Joe Gibbs, and it was just like, what?
It's a conflict of interest.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
They both drive Toyotas. Both teams are Toyotas.
Believe so, yeah.
What keeps Hamlin from going over to his own team and going, hey, guys? And I'm not saying he's giving them everything Joe Gibbs has, because obviously 23 and 11 isn't performing the way that Joe Gibbs racing is. But don't tell me you don't think he's not going, okay, I can go give them this little tip and I can tell them, hey, do this different, or hey, maybe set the car up like this to help with tire wear or whatever it may be. To me, it's a conflict of interest. And I'm kind of surprised that like NASCAR doesn't kind of do I don't even know how you would do an audit, or not an investigation, but I can't even think of the right word.
I wonder
an oversight.
Yeah,
I guess. not like an oversight committee, but an oversight team, just to be like, all right, let's see what these teams are doing and how close they really are. I mean, manufacturers are going to talk to each other anyways, but I mean, it just to me it seems like conflict of interest. I was going to ask you that and see what you thought about that too. So you read my mind. Good.
Yeah,
job.
I thought it was just. I think it's just weird, personally. Like, I mean, Brad Keselowski, I thought that was a major move for him to do that, to be like a little part on it in Roush Racing. I thought that one was interesting, but he's been dipping hardcore. I think he hasn't won a race in like 100 some odd races.
Yeah,
So
it's
I'm like, I
100.
wonder, like, if because he went over there that he's just not good anymore, or I'm not really sure what's going on, because he used to be really dominant, whether he was
He
top
was
5 or top 10 a lot of his races. But the biggest one for me, I still haven't gotten over it, and I've texted my buddy about it. I was like, Kyle Busch looks weird in the 8 car. And he's
dude.
like, dude, he's been there since last year. I know, but it's still weird that Kyle Busch is not with Joe Gibbs, but he's with Richard Childress, and he's got the number 8. I'm like, it's just odd.
It doesn't look right. It doesn't look right at all. So let's give the rundown here. We obviously know that Hamlin won and Logano got second. Kyle Larson came in third. Truex Jr. got fourth. Chase Elliott got a top 5 and fifth. Christopher Bell was sixth.
Underrated driver, by the way.
Which one?
Christopher Bell.
I would have agreed with you last season. I think he is on everybody's radar, and he's been picked, I think, 3 times this year to win races. I can't say he's underrated anymore. And it's the guy who they covered it when they were at COTA last week. They did a little interview with this guy who picks NASCAR races. Every time he picks a guy to win, the guy wrecks or loses. So Christopher Bell told him he didn't want him to pick him anymore, and he picked Christopher Bell last week at COTA.
Yes, so that's a guy on the Fox one. I know you're talking about too. Yeah. I forgot his name. Yeah.
I've never seen him before, so I don't know his name. I'll be honest. I'll be very transparent.
It's not Jamie McMurray, is it?
No, it's not McMurray. It's some other. It's an old dude's got to be in his 50s, and he wears round glasses. He's kind of geeky looking, but he looks smart. So I trust I'll have to look at him, but. So 7th place was William Byron. Again, another up there for Hendricks. Brad Keselowski got 8th. Chris Buescher got 9th. So RFK finished 8th and 9th. That's totally respectable. Tyler Reddick got 10th. Josh Berry came in 11th. Noah Gragson had his best race of the year. He was strong all night. Stayed clean.
Yep.
Kid stayed clean all night for Stewart Haas. So Stewart Haas went 11-12. Bubba Wallace ended up with 13th because that last pit stop really got him. They had to re-raise the car. The left rear tire lug nut didn't get tightened all the way. Eric Jones had a good race, finished 14th. Ross Chastain 15th. I'm a little disappointed in Chastain this year. He's kind of like my new little go do something guy because I think he's fun and he reminds me of an old school driver, I guess. And I don't know, I like him. I liked his little video game movie he did last year. That's kind of when I started watching NASCAR again. He did that move where he rode the wall all the way around to get in the playoffs. Was it last year or the year before? That's what kind of sparked me back to NASCAR because I was like, oh, that was so cool.
I thought you were going to say he's a watermelon farmer.
Well, I love watermelons too, man. My favorite fruit. Ty Gibbs got 16th. Alex Bowman 17th. Chase Briscoe in 18th. Ryan Blaney 19th. Kyle Busch down to 20th. He is having a rough season so far. Todd Gilliland 21st, who had a really, really good first and second stage. Something must have gone wrong in stage 3. I didn't catch it, but he fell down. He's had a really good season so far. Daniel Suarez 22nd. Cindric 23rd. Austin Dillon again. I don't see him with
No.
I think he's gone to the end of the year. He's just had so much bad luck. He needs to restart somewhere else. He finished 24th. John Hunter Nemechek finished 25th. Michael McDowell 26th. Carson Hocevar 27th. Ryan Preece 28th. Ty Dillon 29th. Daniel Hemrick was 30th. Kaz Gralla is the guy I was trying to say earlier when I was talking about if he hit the wall, that would have been a green flag. Justin Haley had a good race for a long time, fell off in the third stage, finished 32nd. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was 33rd. Harrison Burton 34th. Who, Harrison?
Ricky Stenhouse, yeah.
He ain't going away until they stop giving him a ride. And I don't blame him either because, once you walk away, you're going to have the itch to come back. So drive until they tell you they don't want you. Harrison Burton, 34th. Zane Smith, 35th. He's the guy from the Truck Series. He's out there running. I give the kid credit. I mean, NASCAR is not easy.
Can you repeat that? Can you repeat that? Because a lot of people
not easy.
A lot of people think, oh, you're just going in circles.
Yeah, you're just making a left turn. The next left turn. You're making another left turn. That's the whole point of the title of the show. I couldn't, it's a Jeff Dunham joke. If you watch, you know what Jeff Dunham is? Tell me you know Jeff
Yeah.
Dunham. Okay,
Yeah.
so he's got the one puppet that's the redneck dummy who's drunk all the time,
Yep.
and they make the joke about you can go to the fridge, grab a beer, and you ain't missed a thing because she's making another left turn. That's my tribute to Jeff. I love Jeff. Shout out Jeff Dunham. If you ever hear this, please retweet me. And Corey LaJoy unfortunately got 36th. Corey LaJoy to me seems like he can only race on super speedways, and there he is a threat. So right now, I'm looking at the points standings. Martin Truex Jr. is in first, Kyle Larson's in second, Denny Hamlin in third, Ty Gibbs in fourth, Ryan Blaney somehow is in fifth. It's just because he's been consistently up in the top 15 all year and finishes up until this race. Christopher Bell, sixth. William Byron, seventh. Chase Elliott's in eighth. So your boys there. Ross Chastain's in ninth. Tyler Reddick's in 10th. Alex Bowman's in 11th. Chris Buescher's in 12th. Kyle Busch is 13th. Bubba Wallace is in 14th. Suarez, 15th. And Brad Keselowski, 16th. John Hunter Nemechek is the first car out right now.
And shout out to John Hunter Nemechek because one of my friends from college, he's actually a tire changer for him. He just got over there this year at Legacy. So shout out Ernesto Holden.
That's awesome. That is, see, I don't know anybody in racing.
That's the only person I know that's like actually doing something.
I know a few people in IRL. I don't know anybody in NASCAR. So I got to ask, who had the better save? Suarez or Larson? Do you remember Suarez's wreck or spin out?
Yeah.
Because he got bumped by Barry.
Yep. And then no one hit him, which I was a little surprised on that one, but
he basically drifted all the way through turn one and into turn two. I mean, it was a perfect drift all around the middle of the track, just sliding.
And I thought for sure some bozo was just gonna gonna tee him right in the front But I'll go Suarez. I feel like that was a good one.
Okay, good. I was gonna say we're gonna agree on that one then, because I thought that was one of the coolest saves. It was basically a drift turn at a speedway,
and that one was a caution too. And I was like, I don't understand the caution of it because he saved himself. Not like he hit anything. That
one to me, at least, was a little bit more understandable as to it being a caution, in my opinion. Just my opinion. But anything else you want to talk about with Richmond?
Only thing I'll say is if anyone's watching the rerun or watching live right now, go and watch the old school Richmond races. I watched one. They had the greatest races, the 1986 one.
Oh, and that's back in the old track format.
Yeah, I wish I was alive then. I was not, but it's just seeing a Dale Earnhardt Michael Waltrip rivalry was just amazing to watch. So if you ever watched any of the old ones like that, go check them out. And there was one too, the 2008 one where Clinton Boyer wins it. Oh, spoiler alert. But Clinton Boyer won the 2008 Richmond. That was a really good race too. And a lot of good old school drivers that were in it too that I totally forgot were in it.
So the last time they raced at Richmond on Easter was 1989, and my boy Rusty Wallace was the winner of that one.
Oh, Rusty.
And that was back when he was driving MGD, I believe. No, I don't think he was MGD yet. I think he was running Skull or something.
I think it was Skull, yeah.
Yeah, back in the day when you could run cigarettes and chewing tobacco and beer on your cars without being worried about getting canceled. The good old days in America.
Oh my god, especially the '86 one. When I was watching, I was like, oh man. But even Earnhardt's Wrangler, it was like blue yellow. I was like, okay,
dude, that was awesome when he was driving for Wrangler jeans. I have that in a diecast car.
Dang.
But no, I mean, so next week, Martinsville, another short track.
Oof.
Real traditional short track. Do you like Martinsville or Bristol better?
I put me on the spot. I think I like Bristol a little bit better than Martinsville.
So I think Bristol's more fun in the sense of it's absolute chaos in Thunder Valley. I think Martinsville takes a little bit more skill because it's a flatter track.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
But Bristol's still my favorite. I love the Bristol night race is my favorite race all year. And I'm one of the few people, and this is because I don't ever get to go to the races, and I don't take the drivers' opinions into consideration always. But I was disappointed they didn't bring back the dirt track. But I completely understand why. It's hard to see. It's a little more dangerous that way. I guess for fans, it's hard to watch for the first stage or so because they got to get the dirt off the inside lane. But I thought the dirt racing was cool for the NASCAR cars. But no, I'm really looking forward to Martinsville next year. What is your favorite race of the season?
I usually
Not
like
playoff.
Texas.
Okay.
Texas is a
Texas is a
good
good
one. I like that speedway. I feel like you definitely need a lot of skill
Yep.
for that speedway. I kind of like New Hampshire just because I want to go there, but that one's not a bad track. I don't really like the blank. I'm kind of blanking right now because my mind's a little. But the one in New York, that's a road track. I'm not really a big fan of that one.
Watkins Glen.
Watkins Glen. Yep. I don't know. I couldn't think of that.
I think it's Watkins Glen.
Yeah, it's Watkins Glen. I just couldn't think of the name for some reason. Kind of like sped out, but
road tracks are a little boring for NASCAR. I feel like just because they can't move through those sharp turns like F1 car or an Indy car can.
That's why I asked that question. Yeah, that's why I asked that question about it.
I don't like the Indy Roval. I'll give you a track I want them to run as a road track. I want them to run the Daytona 24-hour track.
Oh.
I think NASCAR would be perfectly fine in that because you only have like one real hairpin turn, and that's when you come back on the backstretch, and then you got the chicane down on the backstretch. But I love that track. I love the 24 hours of Daytona. Like I watch it every year. I like the 24 hours of Le Mans. That's the racing that I've really been watching for the last few years. And those are a couple of my favorites, especially when it comes to endurance. But if NASCAR was going to do anything with changing tracks or adding another track, that's the one I would pick, especially over the Indy Roval or the Charlotte Roval. I am happy they're going back to the Brickyard this year. That was my first ever NASCAR race. My dad went to, I think, the first 6 or 7. I think I went to 95 and 96 and then 98. And then I was basically IRL after that. But no, I think those are good tracks. Texas is fun. I like Atlanta. I really like Atlanta a lot.
Oh, that's a good track. Yeah.
I'm kind of burnt out on Pocono.
Yeah, I'm cool.
I mean, Pocono's cool, but I don't like how they run the 2 races there on back-to-back days. And I don't know if they're doing that this year or not, but that'd be one I could pass on or just do one day there. But I like Homestead.
Really?
Down in Miami. Yeah. I don't know why. Something about that track, and I'm excited to see the cars back at WWT in St. Louis this year.
Is it because you can go?
Well, I could go. I mean, I could get. It's really easy for me to get tickets there, but it's the shape of the track, so it's not. It's an oval, but it's an egg-shaped oval. So one turns. I want to say it's 3 and 4 a lot wider, and 1 and 2 are a lot more narrow. So it's a little bit different. So that's a track I'm hoping. If I don't go this year, I will definitely go next year. I'm hoping that I can get a media pass and go this year. And go to the garage. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. Brandon, media pass.
Get it.
But and you can come with me, buddy. But no, that's kind of where I'm at on the different tracks. Aaron, I do appreciate you coming on tonight. It's nice to have somebody to chit chat and converse with about the NASCAR races. Anytime you want to come on, man, shoot me a message. Typically it's Sunday nights. So basically, here's how we're going to do this the rest of the year, everybody. If it's a Sunday night race and the next day is a national holiday, if the race is over before 10:30, I will still be happy to go and put a show on Sunday night. If you prefer, we'll move them to Monday nights regardless if it's Sunday night races. Saturday night races, we'll still do the show on Sunday nights to try to keep a consistent schedule. Aaron, you are more than welcome to come on anytime you'd like. Just shoot me a message. You have my number, and you can contact me about 5 different ways.
Yeah, for real.
Well, I hope you had fun coming on tonight. Is there anything else you want to say in closing?
Yeah, so make sure you guys check out the Next Left Turn, like, subscribe to Variety Sports Network. They're doing great things out there. If you want to make this consistent, I have no problem with it. Just let me know. We can get something going on that. And there is one track that I wish they can bring back from the dead.
Which one?
That is Occoneechee, which I believe is in North Carolina. It's abandoned. It hasn't been there since like 1970. But it's a really good track though. Like if they could make it, they can make it back. Like it's kind of like a dirt track, but it's like how do I describe it? You got to watch Dale Jr. Downloads. I watched that like a few years ago. It's on Peacock if you have it. Yeah, he has 2 seasons of it, but this is a really cool racetrack. The only bad thing is like with the seating, but how the track is, it's so long and it's like you need skills to do it. So I wish they could bring back like an old speedway like that.
I'm gonna have to look that one up now because I've never heard of it ever. And I'll have to
Yeah,
ask my dad about
I
it.
didn't either until he went there. What was it, like during COVID or whatever it was, but yeah, it's a really cool show. So check that one out if anyone hasn't seen it. But yeah, again, just make sure you guys like, subscribe, Next Left Turn, and for iSports Network.
Yeah, absolutely. Check out the Double Double. Check out Woo Pig Weekly. Check out the 7th Inning Stretch on Wednesday night. You can find, or Thursday nights, excuse me. You can find me there. The
Yeah,
314 Sports Show.
You got to get your baseball. You got to get your baseball questions good. Yeah, you got to beat Darren.
Dude, I've only beat him once, and he smokes me. He's even getting to the point where he knows when I can remember as a child baseball, and I still can't get them all. I've been close a couple times, but I only got that one, and that was embarrassing. It's super embarrassing, but it's all good. It's all good.
But yeah, you guys are doing really good things on this network. So
well, we appreciate it. We love that you guys are on the 5-hole. You're taking that hockey coverage to another level for us. I mean, you guys are gonna be super swamped coming up here soon. What, there's 8-9 games left for most teams in the regular season, and then we're getting into playoffs, and it's gonna be different this year. I mean, give us a little. What do you think about the NHL playoffs? Do you think it's gonna be different than this year, or are we gonna see the perennial blue chips at the end of the year in the Stanley Cup final?
the problem is in the West, there's a lot of like in the Central, there's a lot of powerhouses that they could be facing each other in the first round, which kind of sucks because you want to kind of see them in the conference or even in the second. That one's going to be a little bit tough, and everyone wants to see the Vegas Golden Knights get out of the playoffs because they have $102 million payroll. So everyone wants to see them flounder, but I think whoever is the most dominant in the playoffs will go the distance. The only teams that I really see that could make a difference is, I won't say until tomorrow on the 5-hole. So go check that one out tomorrow night. Aha!
I was trying to get you. So I could hold you to it tomorrow night. All right, guys. Well, there you go. There's your tease for tomorrow night. Check out the 5-hole. They're going to give you some preview into the NHL playoffs with the last week and a half, 2 weeks coming into the season. If you were with me tonight over here on the Next Left Turn and you missed Talking the Gridiron, go on YouTube channel, hit like, subscribe, share, comment. Go make sure you watch Darren's football show. If you've seen him on 7th Inning Stretch, he's almost as good at football as he is at baseball, and he's phenomenal at baseball, so that means he's really, really good at football too. Jimmy Pilato was over there too. Jimmy from Far Into the Bench, one of our other teammates on the VSN. But again, make sure you like, share, subscribe on the YouTube. Guys, thanks so much. We appreciate you. Have a great week. We'll see you next week after Martinsville.